I interviewed with the company for over 6 months, only to get rejected in the final interview. I'm going to talk about why I got rejected here so that it doesn't happen to you. Oh, and by the way, this job paid over $300,000. When I was 26, I was exploring my options in the medical sales career. I was approached by a med device company to take over an $8 million territory. 4 months into the interview process, everything was going great. That's when the hiring manager asked if he could take my wife and I out to dinner. This is a strategy utilized in the medical device space so that hiring managers make sure that the spouse of the interviewee fully understands the demands of the job and the role requirements. Now, I knew this was a test, so I picked a restaurant that I had been to many times. When we sat down for dinner, the hiring manager asked me to order for him. I knew that with this position, I was going to be in the OR setting, and from time to time, there would be surgeons who were looking to me for answers on how to typically utilize the devices. And that is what this hiring manager was looking for. Assertiveness in a situation where you were entirely uncomfortable. Fortunately, I passed this test with flying colors. I'd been in this restaurant many times, and I knew a meal that anyone would like. When dinner came to an end, I thought I had this position in the bag, only to find out that there was one final step. I had to speak to the regional director. At this point, we're 6 months deep. On my way to the interview, I was listening to a motivational speech, something I typically do to prepare for every interview process to get myself hyped up and get myself prepared. But I made one critical mistake that cost me everything. I implemented part of that motivational speech into my interview script. Keep in mind that over the past 6 months, my story has been consistent and has never changed. And here I was, changing it in the final round. What ended up happening was the regional director started asking me questions, she got under my skin, and I let the slightest bit of hesitation come into my answers. In the interview setting, you have to imagine yourself in a pool full of sharks. And the second they sense any sort of hesitation, it's like blood in the water. And guess who's for lunch? You. So, moral of the story, your story does not change. You stay consistent. You want the hiring manager and the regional director from start to finish bonding over the stories that you've told them. When Mike, the hiring manager, goes to the regional director and says, hey, Ryan told me a great story about XYZ, you want the regional director saying, oh my God, yes, the outcome of that story was absolutely amazing. They're bonding over you and the brand that you've developed over that 6-month time. If you want to learn how to consistently tell your stories in the interview setting, I have a blueprint that walks you through the entire interview process. Check out the link that's in my bio. Go crush your next interview.